Hey there, I'm Janae.
I'm Lisa.
And this is our podcast, the QC Chicks. And
Quality control chicks.
Oh, yes.
To be more specific. Because that's what it says on our social.
Of course, I'm already messing that up. I knew I would.
We can do another take if you want.
Yeah, leave it in. As character.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, basically, so you and I worked together already, like, what, 5 years ago now?
Right out of school. If we don't want to do the math, we can just say right out of school.
Yes, technically. So we worked together right out of school doing heavy lifting at a prop house. And they had set decorations and props for film and TV. And yeah, we were just the movers for that. Nothing too crazy. And it was just a job outside of school. But yeah, the next job we worked together was the one that counted.
Yes, the one that, we got rid of our physical strength and then we used our mental strength to find issues in film and TV.
Yeah. And you helped me get a job there. So we both worked at a post-production facility in Toronto. And we just, we had to do quality control for all kinds of fun TV shows, a lot of, what would you say? What?
A lot of nature shows, like run-and-gun nature shows.
Home reno,
reality TV, I guess, in a sense. Not like Housewives reality TV, but general unscripted TV, I guess, is what you would call it.
Yeah.
That stuff, it sticks with you. So you kind of keep noticing that stuff when you stop doing it for a living. And that's kind of where we came up with the idea for the podcast, where let's just ruin movies and TV for everybody, because that would be fun.
Because we can no longer watch anything without noticing the errors. Unfortunately, that's just a part of the gig. And well, we still enjoy entertainment. We love movies. We are both obsessed with horror films.
Yes, we will be covering a lot of those.
Yes. And you kind of helped me get into post because I had no experience other than film school, which was just very basic, standard. This is how you can edit together your short film, but was not very good at it, and I didn't enjoy post, so I was happy that you kind of got me into that field, because now I work as a visual effects editor, and Lisa...
I'm do assistant editing work for film and TV. Just came off doing a freelance horror film, which was a lot of fun, but now I have full-time work, which is even more fun. And also, you're welcome, and I'm sorry for getting you into post, both at the same time, because any facet of film has its ups and downs. But I guess that's something we also didn't mention. We did go to film school together, so 4 years of that before working together professionally, multiple times, because I also worked with you for a little bit at said VFX house.
Yes.
So our paths keep crossing, professionally anyway. They obviously pass outside of workplace environments. It's interesting because even working on other jobs, like I find my QC switch coming back on and being like, no, we can't send this yet. There's a flash frame that no one's noticed, or we need to swap this out or resize something. Like it never really goes away, even if that's not the primary aspect of your job, which can be good and bad to like constantly be noticing that stuff. But as you said, it doesn't really take away from the enjoyment necessarily of watching anything. If anything, it just kind of adds an extra layer, because then you're thinking about how maybe they did something in a way that you weren't thinking about before, and then it kind of adds like an extra, you feel more a part of it in a way, because you're kind of like, it's a little peek behind the curtain that you wouldn't get necessarily otherwise as something that, we didn't work on.
Sometimes. That's true. That's true.
Especially if you research it and really, dig deep into key aspects of it like we did for this podcast, you really come to realize how and why these mistakes happen.
Yes. Well, you are definitely the very organized, very detailed, also podcast lover.
Thank you. I'm going to make a soundbite of that.
You listen to a lot of podcasts and you got me on it. It wasn't really something that I kind of listened to, but I've really gotten into enjoying them. And yeah, this is very weird for me because I don't normally like to talk and put myself out there, and even in school didn't like to go on camera or anything. So
don't get Janae on camera and don't watch her eat. She hates it.
Yeah, no.
Or she loves it. Do it.
I just realized that I'm drinking a beer
eating
during
snacks.
No. Well, even I was like, oh yeah, I'm drinking a beer while we're like on camera. That's weird.
Just don't go ASMR with it. Just drink it off mic. We decided to go with a topic near and dear to our hearts, which is good for introducing a podcast because it's general and can sort of ease ourselves and everybody into what it is we're going to basically be talking about. And so for this episode, we're going to be discussing mistakes and goofs that we've noticed primarily across film and TV that are related to post-production in a broad but specific sense. So basically meaning anything we've noticed in film and TV that came about an issue in post-production. Somebody in color or audio or online, offline, somewhere in those facets of film made a mistake, and we noticed it. So we're going to talk about it.
So, yeah, when we worked together, it was basically you were already working doing online editing.
Assistant editing.
And I got brought in because I had no post experience whatsoever. So I started as just QC operator, learning the basics. You kind of showed me everything. Would basically just sit down in a very dark room and QC these shows. And we were looking for all kinds of issues. So we would literally just sit, watch through it in normal speed and try and see what we could flag. And with every issue we saw, we'd stop and we'd talk about it.
Yeah, we'd stop, talk about it, note it down. We'd be doing this live through the editing program Avid, which has a marker system where you can pause and add a little like marker where you can say like what we can describe what thing we were noticing and then talk about it in the moment, talk about it after. And basically just like watching something through, stopping and starting, talking about picture or audio, anything that seemed off to us that we would need to flag to the client to go back to and fix. We operated on like a critique system there, like a 1, 2, 3 level kind of system where level 1 would be something along the lines of like, this seems a little weird, but it's probably fine, but we'll point it out to you anyway. These are very loose descriptions. I am very much making them up on the fly. Level 2 would be like, yeah, this could be a problem. You should at least look at it and assess what you guys, if you want to sign off on it. And then a level 3 would be like, yeah, it can't air like this. You have to fix it, and we won't sign off on it until you do that, basically.
Essentially, it's going to ruin viewers' experience and should be addressed.
Yes, or it could get somebody sued, like not blurring certain products in the background of a shot. Anything that could cost someone more money than it's worth, level 3. And so we thought it would be fun to adapt that kind of process for our podcast. So at the end of each episode, if we remember, we'll try and remember, we are going to rate either the specific individual examples or the overall topic on a level of 1, 2, 3 quality control.
Kind of what we both think it would be. In the same manner as when we worked together, it was like we had to talk about it and decide which level it would be. So sometimes we'd even talk for a while on what we thought was actually going to be an issue for people. So it's
sometimes 2 and 3 is they blur the line because we think it would be a showstopper, but maybe somebody else wouldn't. But I mean, they can bump it down. It's a fluid system. So and this will be too. This will also be very fluid, and we might not always agree. Because we don't typically on some things. So we'll see.
And whoever listens may not agree either, but these are just our opinions.
Exactly.
It's all opinions.
Everything we say is our comments and our comments alone.
Even though we did have a job doing this.
We did, but not talking about these specific examples, so we're not attached to these projects in any way, other than enjoying them or wanting to rip them apart.
It's all in fun.
Yeah, it's all in good fun.
We just enjoy watching movies and TV, that's all. I guess we could talk about first instance we noticed and kind of brought back this idea of the podcast was when we watched Wednesday.
Yep. The Netflix show Wednesday, which was good overall. You know, it was charming. I'm excited for the second season. I think there's some stuff they can improve on. And I think I've heard they're cutting out things like the love triangles and things like that, which I think it will be good for, you know, focusing on Wednesday's character a little bit more. But that aside, hopefully they change some things about their post-production because we had very many text exchanges while watching the show about mistakes that were at least glaringly obvious to us and our partners, which didn't detract the viewing experience too much, but I thought it was distracting.
Yeah, it was a moment of like we had to stop it and then rewind and go back and see the issue because it was like, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. We need to check that out. And I've done that on a couple of shows, but I noticed it a lot on Wednesday. And then when we texted you and you were like, oh, yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, because you can't help but notice it. Yeah. We're trained to notice it, so we just can't stop. And, you know, I mean, the first one we noticed, which isn't the main thing we're going to talk about today, and I think I even forgot to put it in my notes, but was the frame glitch. That was the first one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember which episode it was in, but it was right on an edit, so it almost could be something you would miss. And this is something we'd catch a lot, like at our job we did together. It could happen across any kind of like level of show or movie. But, you know, just when you resize something in post-production, typically you're putting an effect on the clip, which, well, you can make it bigger, smaller, than how it was originally intended to be shot. And in this one particular instance, right on a shot change, there was a frame of and again, a frame is smaller than a second. It's very, very fast. A frame flash of a clip being one size and then suddenly a different size. Yeah. And that was
suddenly
the first
shifting to bigger. And it was, because it was right on the cut too, it was something that like, I was like, wait, was that just the cut? Did I actually see that? And then going back and, you know, it'd probably be easier to like, go frame by frame on like a computer and check for that.
Pull it into a program, put a marker on it, put a leveling system on it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But when you're just watching TV, like you're watching and then all of a sudden you see this, you know, something
bumps
jarring.
You. And that's the thing about post-production. I mean, production too, we'll get to that. But with post-production, you don't want to notice it. That's kind of the whole point. So it's nice in a sense when you do things like award shows where you know, sometimes things get nominated and you're like, I didn't even notice the sound in that. It's like, yeah, that's why it's getting nominated. And it's things like this too. It's like, I didn't even notice the editing. But then when you do notice the editing, you're like, wait a minute, something's wrong. I don't know what it was, but something was wrong.
Yeah.
And then the luxury for us, but I guess kind of not so great for filmmakers of streaming services, is it's very easy for us to pause and go back and replay and go, try and stop on the one spot and then play it, and then we can really dissect and be like, no, we did see what we thought we saw. That was a mistake.
We saw it. We noticed. And it was definitely like, you know, something like that. When you're watching a TV show, you don't want to be taken out of that moment. You don't want something to be like, wait a minute, what was that? And you're supposed to be in it. You're supposed to be in the scene. And it just completely took me out of it.
Me too. And again, I don't even remember what scene it was. And like, it's also possible by now that someone has gone back and fixed it if enough people have noted it.
That is a good point to bring up, because on another thing I want to bring up today, another show, an issue that I saw, I went back and looked and they had removed it.
Yeah.
And that does happen often where enough people noticed the issue, or maybe finally the studio
somebody
head
from the
saw it. We're like, you need to go back and fix that. And it is very easy to like, just after it's aired, you can, re-upload it. It's not a big issue, but sometimes things get left up and they just leave it.
Exactly. And, our industry can be, super forgiving and also not super forgiving. So I hope, wow, my voice.
You can have water.
I hope that whoever was the origin of the mistake did not get any negative repercussions because of that, because shit happens. and it is an easy fix, and it was likely time constraints that caused the mistake in the first place, which is also something you learn by critiquing shows and movies like this. Is you can't really even directly blame the person who did it, because,
We've also been in situations where, we've both been people who have done the editing or delivered, mistakes. And it's very easy to make a mistake. Like, when you're tired, working long hours, and, you're working real hard to get that show out. So it happens. Like, I've been in situations too where I've gone back and looked at something and was like, oh yeah, right. Need to fix that there. Like, so it happens, but there are some situations where it can be either in camera was the issue, or in this situation it is a post issue, but it can happen sometimes while you're editing, or it can also be, as something like during delivery, there can be glitches.
Yeah,
or
and things
something
get
happen.
Passed down through so many hands, and even if you have enough time to do something, stuff just slips through. And a lot of the stuff, having a job doing QC, the whole point of it is it's new eyes looking at something. So you're kind of skipping over everyone else who's looked at it, has seen it a million times, and you're getting someone who is new to the material to take just an extra pass at something to make sure that it's all good. And sometimes you don't have time for that. And that's how things like this podcast happen, where we look through things and talk about mistakes. Because the other thing that was the primary topic of Wednesday that we've also both noticed was power windows and smoothing of people's skin.
Yes.
Which I've noticed in a lot of other shows, but I have to be honest, this was kind of the worst offender, I think.
Yeah, it's something that can be used sometimes just to, sometimes they're just kind of smoothing out someone's face. There are a lot of TV shows that notably do that. RuPaul's Drag Race. Yeah, it's like some people just want to have that young looking, aesthetic face, and it's used a lot, especially in today's age. And unfortunately, in Wednesday, they
overdid
it. They really went there with it.
And the thing with this is Jenna Ortega is young, so it wasn't even to hide imperfections or wrinkles or anything like that. It was purely, from my understanding and research, they didn't want her freckles in the show anymore because it wasn't indicative of the character, and her paleness with her complexion, they decided it didn't work. Even after all the promo photos and everything, at least separate photography they did, not stills from the show, had her freckles in them. So, and it was last minute from my understanding. So they had many different people done quickly, many different teams of people going in and, quickly trying to get rid of her freckles, which it's noticeable, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. It's, it looks like there's just like a filter over her face.
That's the thing.
Like,
it
glowy
looks like a Snapchat filter or an Instagram story filter or something like that. And it's that was more distracting than the frame, because it's consistently through the show, and it's almost different depending on, like, scene by scene. It can be different on the method they used. And then there's a couple instances of them doing it for Catherine Zeta-Jones's chest as well, where, again, likely a last-minute decision. You can see, I'll describe a power window as basically you're isolating a part of a shot where you're going to do just one type of correction. So it can be blurring something, it can be changing the hue, saturation, lightness, darkness of just a specific spot. And it typically starts as a hard-edged square or a circle, and then usually you smooth it out and blend it with the footage. They did not. It was very clearly just a square that was not blurred in any way. At least at the time it came out.
It could be even a situation of, they had different, what they call nodes, which is like the level in which they're adding more and more to the effect. So it's very possible that they might have been doing the fix, and there was a lot more. There could have been feathering done. It could have looked a lot better. And then, in one instance, you do that delivery, and say several of those levels weren't turned on. And then now suddenly you see that hard-edged outline, and it's unfortunate. But again, it's something that can happen and can get missed and likely was fixed. I don't know. I haven't gone back and checked.
I don't know.
I'd be curious to see.
I was looking for, so editorial me knows that there's some clips floating around on YouTube that I could possibly cut in, fair use. But I haven't actually gone back to look at it on Netflix. So when I was doing research, I was trying my best to find stills and clips to look back on while I was, looking for examples. And I did find the one scene that I remember being particularly egregious for it. And the video was just, it wasn't high enough quality on YouTube for me to tell.
As an example?
Yeah, so I think I would have to rewatch that part of the episode on Netflix to really see if it's still there.
Because, again, this is something that we noticed while we were, watching it. When it came out, when it was airing, it was like everybody was on it, everybody was watching it, and that's when we noticed these issues. But again, I haven't gone back and done like a rewatch.
No.
A lot of the times, I know. I'm so bad. I'm like, I watch a show and I don't usually rewatch it. My partner loves to rewatch shows. He's constantly like...
Mine is the opposite. I always want to rewatch. Or I'll watch it first, and then I'll be like, no, we have to watch it together now.
Yeah, that's true.
And then he'll point out things that I didn't notice that were mistakes, and then we're just a joy to watch things with together.
Yes. Yeah.
But we should definitely do especially because there is going to be a new season. I don't remember what happened, so I'll definitely have to rewatch it anyway.
I know. I always do those recaps, just quickly see
what happened. It's helpful if they give us the recap as well, and we don't have to go do one ourselves.
Yeah,
but
that's
for mistakes that specific, they're not really highlight scenes. They're not likely to be in a recap. So
because I'm gonna have to do that because the next thing I wanted to talk about was an issue I saw when I was watching Stranger Things.
Oh.
And that's another show where it's like, it's been so long.
Yes.
That I would have to go back and do a recap because...
Depending which season, absolutely.
It's been how long already?
Too long. They're in their 20s now.
2 years.
So
yeah, they're all... When I actually saw a video and Millie was like, oh, it's already been... 10 years. She was 10 years old when...
And now she's married to
cast.
Bon Jovi's son. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And then the new season's not expected for a bit, so I'll definitely have to recap on that one. But for this podcast, I did remember seeing an issue in one of the scenes when they're in... It's like Robin and Steve are in the bathroom of the mall. And they're just talking, they're having a really intimate conversation, and he's telling her basically he's really into her, and she has to let him know that she is in fact gay and she's not going to be into him. And as they're having this really deep conversation, I'm like, what is that? What is that on screen? And of course, there's a dead pixel that just lingers over her face and it's
on her face.
Yeah, it was really
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that to explain that a little bit further. A dead pixel goes deep into the lore of us working in QC because that is a common thing for specifically documentary filmmaking, mostly because you're so run and gun using multiple different cameras, and essentially a dead pixel is a burnt out pixel. It's a lot brighter, sometimes a different color than the rest of them, and it kind of looks like a speck of dust or dirt.
Yeah, it can get mistook for just dirt.
But it's so rare to be in an actual filmed non-documentary style thing. That's crazy. I did not notice that.
Yeah. If you had dirt on your camera lens, it would not look as tiny.
No,
as a
very,
dead pixel.
very small. But then again, one of those things that once you notice it, you can't not notice it.
Yeah.
So you always pick up when it happens, or you just lose the whole point of a scene when you're just like, was that a dead pixel? Let me rewind. Again, the greatness of streaming. You can go back.
Yeah, and look at it again.
Yeah.
And how I knew too is it'll just stay stationary on the screen. You can have, the camera moving around or, even if the character, like you'll just see this little speck and it just stays in the same spot. However, if a shot adds like, stabilization.
It will move around.
Or some kind of like post effect, then you'll see that little pixel move around, but generally it's going to stay in its spot.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's like a big thing that stands out, but when you see it, it's all you see. And
if you know, you know. And then it's all you notice.
It was so distracting to me. Like, it was on her face, and every time it would cut to Steve, wasn't there. So whatever camera
they were
or
using
lens,
for her coverage,
like, as soon as they'd go back to her, it was like, oh, there it is. There it is.
There's the spot. It's such a common and simple fix, too, that, again, maybe we'll go back and look, and it's gone. There's literally a preset in Avid, the editing program, like it's a pixel fixer. Just plop it on the shot, and it'll fix it.
Yeah, it's
Don't know if they
easy
edited
fix.
in Avid, but it's a common enough mistake that there's an actual tool specifically to get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly. The only way it would be like difficult to get rid of is if they've added that stabilization, and then you have to like track that little pixel around.
Yeah, I can do that now.
Yeah, that's the thing for me is I always thought I was like, oh, like there's got to be like a whole QC. Like when we were hired as these QC people for TV, that wasn't super big. It's not like on the big scale of like, millions of viewers watching. So you would think Netflix would have something like that.
Or it's at least a little more forgiving because it's not a big budget Netflix show. It's something that, if it's a home reno show, maybe you're like half paying attention. Like my stepmom would throw it on and be, cooking dinner in the background kind of thing. You're not scrutinizing the quality of the shots.
Yeah.
Unless you're paid to, which we were. So. But yeah, human eyes are always the best eyes though, because machines miss stuff too.
That's one thing we would talk about a lot. Like, there were some instances where, well, I guess we could even talk about things outside of eyes. Like, we've heard issues as well. That's another thing we would have to QC is audio issues and, super high-pitched frequencies.
The high-pitched frequency. Oh, my God.
We would hear things, and nobody else in the studio, we'd, like, call them in and be like, come listen to this. Do you hear this issue? And some people who are older couldn't hear it at all.
We were the youngins, the straight out of school, early 20-somethings, and everybody else there, for the most part, was, a more adult, at least over 30. And not to, like, single anybody out. We don't care how old you were. But in this case, it mattered because you didn't believe us, and I was a little butthurt about it.
Didn't believe us and said that they definitely didn't think there was an issue. And there was.
And we had to have the audio technician, shout out to Kevin, bring it into his editing program, his sound program Pro Tools, and literally isolate the frequency so that they could see it.
Yep.
And then they believed us and got rid of it. So
that is there.
Yeah, because it was piercing my ears. Because one of us would be sitting without headphones, the other would be wearing headphones. And I don't remember which was which in the position when we noticed this.
Yeah.
But especially if you're wearing headphones and you can hear it, it's like piercing to your ears. It's so distracting. Yeah. And you know what? I noticed it in a commercial recently I saw on YouTube. Because I don't watch TV. They're YouTube ads now. It's some kind of credit card commercial. And there's like sheen that goes across the card in a couple of shots, and it's a high-pitched frequency. And I literally cringe every time that commercial comes on because it's grating on my ears.
Well, it's the thing. Like, there are some people who aren't going to be able to hear it, but it's a big offense because if there are children in the room, or especially in the situation when we heard it was like a nature doc
some
type
kind
thing,
of nature
right?
documentary.
Which a lot of children will be listening to, and if you just keep hearing that noise over and over and over again, like as a kid, it's like,
I know.
Oh God, what is that?
Parents like, why is my child crying suddenly? It's the high-pitched frequencies in the nature documentaries. It's not a conspiracy, but it sounds like one.
Yeah. Honestly, like human eyes and ears were the best way to find a lot of these errors. And, it had to be someone who was like sitting down and like really watching and listening. And we were in the perfect environment for that. We could very quiet, like
soundproof room, no windows, doors closed to the outside world for hours. Sensory deprivation so that our eyesight and our ears can be heightened to notice things.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't have a discussion about post-production mistakes without bringing up the infamous Justice League mustache, or lack thereof. I guess. Again, I haven't seen Justice League. I don't know about you. You have?
I have.
Okay, well, that's good. You have firsthand knowledge. I've only seen clips.
Not that I like really wanted to. My partner loves The Flash. So yeah, of course I had to watch that.
Give it a watch. Well, at least this could keep you entertained, if anything, because it was comical. Because you know what? Actors, sometimes contracts overlap. That was kind of the situation here. Henry Cavill was contracted to do Justice League and then Mission Impossible directly afterwards, in which case, to my knowledge, he played a villain who had a very thick mustache. Justice League then had to go through some reshoots, which is typically when they want to change a story point, rework a scene, they'll call actors back. Contractually, usually they're obligated to do so within a certain time frame. But then you get situations like this where it's overlapping with the conflict of another studio where he had to have this mustache for this other role.
Yeah.
As we know, Superman typically does not have a mustache and did not have a mustache for the rest of the filming.
Clean baby face.
And it really does make him look like he has a baby face. I'm looking at pictures of it right now on my phone, and it's bad, guys. It's real bad. People noticed it. And if the general public is noticing it and making memes about it, it's bad.
It's like that butt chin is even
I mean,
more
they didn't even
defined.
replace his chin. It's his,
I
it's his
know.
upper lip.
Oh, that's true.
His
wasn't
chin
even all
mustache,
down
you guys.
here.
They had to get rid of
the
that.
photo. I'm like, that's
It was a very abstract villain in the Mission Impossible movies. He had a mustache on his chin. That's why he was a villain. That's his origin story.
He didn't have any of this stubble, though?
No, that's true, but I'm sure he could easily shave that.
Yeah, so he just kept the mustache.
Kept the mustache because he had to keep it. And, it was a whole thing here. I mean, I'm looking through my notes, and it would have been $3 million to add the mustache in post-production. So DC just decided to get rid of it.
It's like, there is really good fake facial hair now. Why couldn't that movie have given him the fake mustache?
There's a quote from Vanity Fair that says, although the artist said that their team worked on a lot of Cavill's facial reconstruction, they stopped short of taking the blame for the film's awkward opening shot of Superman in which Cavill's face is clearly off. I'm not sure which other studio did the opening shot on the cell phone, so they're displacing blame here. But it's dreadful, the artist wrote. It shouldn't have been approved internally, let alone gone all the way to make it into the film. That shocked me a bit. We were all looking at each other when the film started, like, what the fuck is this? Because everyone else was saying the same thing.
I don't know, because as you said here, it's $3 million to add the mustache in post. You can get the glue on just a wig. You can do that with facial hair. That's got to be way cheaper.
And you know what? You find out years later about things you've seen that someone was wearing a wig the entire time. I'm sure it would be just as under the radar with a mustache as a wig. I just was reading today that James McAvoy shaved his head to play Charles Xavier, and then they were like, no, you're him from the past, you have hair. And then he had to wear a wig for a majority of the shoot because of it. And I would not have known that if I hadn't just seen an article about it, because it was so well done. You can have bad wigs for sure, but I'm sure Paramount could spend less than $3 million on a mustache wig.
Oh yeah, it would be a more cost efficient way,
and it wouldn't make
would be less
Superman
distracting.
Look so fucking weird,
literally inhuman.
It's so bad. I get he's already an alien.
Understand. Yes,
but
I feel like he's supposed to be.
Don't come for me if I'm wrong. I watched Smallville. He's technically an alien. He's not from Earth. I'm calling him an alien. Apologies if that's not right. DC fans, don't come for me. But he's already not human. Is my point.
Supposed to appear human in any
exactly.
sense,
His whole thing is he puts his glasses and his everyday suit on, and he's Clark Kent, and then he takes off his glasses, and no one knows it's him. So I mean, it's a Hannah Montana situation. With her, it's a wig, and it's not meant to look like a wig, and it kind of does, but
yeah, there are cases where changing someone's hair pre-production is it does kind of look a little bit
Not great.
shoddy.
Yeah,
like
sometimes you can clean that up in
Furiosa.
post, and it would be way cheaper than getting rid of an entire mustache and trying to recreate someone's upper. Because
Yeah.
that's what's weird is it doesn't move. Because you get that kind of uncanny valley thing with video games too. Like I have a lot of video games. I love the ones where, like Detroit Become Human or The Quarry Until Dawn, where it's real people scanned and motion captured. And the one thing that they still can't get right that's a little more forgiving in video games is the upper lip movement. We're just not quite there yet.
It's always like the mouth just doesn't seem right.
And it's
Something's not
usually,
right there.
unfortunately, that part of the mouth specifically. So when you're replacing it entirely, I mean, they obviously have a lot of footage of Henry Cavill without the mustache to work from.
That's true. That's true.
But it was so stiff and so noticeable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just something's not right.
No.
And it's all you notice, and it completely is just taking you out of it, which is supposed to already be a fantasy. You're supposed to already be in
You're
this.
already suspending your disbelief, but it's like, okay, people can fly, they have superpowers, that's fine, I'll accept it. But his mustache was removed, I can't accept that.
Yeah.
Not suspending my disbelief for that.
Yeah. There's some instances where like I was going to say like Furiosa, where it's like they put on, like they didn't shave her head. She just wears a ball cap.
Yeah,
And
but they blend it with makeup and it looks pretty seamless.
it does, but the only difference in that where I would argue it looks a little odd because she has so much hair. You can tell that it's like changed the shape of her head. That if she actually just shaved her hair, it would be, her head would look a little bit
I feel like you can
proportional.
usually tell when someone shaved their head for a role. Like when Joey King shaved her hair for The Act, you could tell that
can
she
tell.
actually shaved her hair, and Millie Bobby Brown for the earlier seasons
for
of
Stranger
Things. That, you can tell when someone puts, I don't want to say that effort into, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to shave your head. But, and especially if the production's like, no, it's fine, we can put a ball cap on it. You trust the team can do it properly, but there is always going to be, unless but she was the main character in that. I haven't seen it, but they're not going to go through every single shot and reduce her head
Like,
size.
could you imagine in post? Let's just remove her hair like in every single shot. Like,
Oh my God.
That's basically what they did with Henry Cavill. Like they just removed his mustache.
But only for the reshoots, thankfully. It wasn't the entire movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up the Brooklyn Nine-Nine one first because I know we've both seen this.
Yes.
This one, I actually also know they did fix it. They did go back and fix it.
Oh, they went back. Okay.
Yep.
So you just went and checked recently?
Yeah, I went, well, no, I didn't go back and check, but I heard since that it was like widely spread on the internet that like, it's a big oopsie. This character, Charles Boyle's last name? It's been a while since I've watched the show. One of the main characters' family, he's with his family in this episode, and Pappy Boyle is supposed to be missing a hand. And they've successfully removed it from most of the episode, except for one shot where you just see him wearing a green glove, which...
Green screen glove.
Like you see all those hilarious behind the scenes pictures of like, Kristen Stewart petting Taylor Lautner dressed in a green suit because he's supposed to be a wolf. And that's cool to see behind the scenes, but again, it'll slip through in post-production, sometimes fast schedules, and you're whipping through a bunch of, something like Brooklyn Nine-Nine isn't very VFX heavy most of the time, I don't think.
No.
But it's every other shot and then just this one where green screen or blue screen is typically used on set so that it's a very bright color, usually independent of any colors around it in a shot, so that when you bring it into a program, you can isolate that color and essentially get rid of it and then erase it with things behind it. So when you leave it in a shot, because it's so bright, it's very noticeable.
You really see it.
And enough people pointed out the mistake when the episode aired that they did go back and fix it.
It's shocking to me that how did they not see that? It raises a question too, because it is a comedy. It's like, did they do that on purpose?
You could argue they did, and I'm sure they could internally be like, well, we can just say it was on purpose.
Yeah,
that
there are some
Poppy
comedies
Boyle
that would do that for sure, but I don't think Brooklyn Nine-Nine is one of those that would mean to leave that in.
I don't think so. I could see something like maybe The Office leaving it in because they play up on it. It's supposed to be a documentary crew, and maybe they were like trying to fake something for the cameras. They could work that into a story or something. It's self-aware enough that I think they could, or something even maybe like Parks and Rec, something that kind of filmmaking style, but definitely not like a multicam like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that, it should have been caught, but I don't think it was an on-purpose thing.
No, and that's kind of where it was kind of refreshing seeing so many people, at least in my eyes. This is going to sound horrible, but it was refreshing to see like a whole slew of fans noticing things that literally was my job once, because people think it's so tedious that we're like, oh, I noticed this. And people are like, I would never notice that. And something like this airs and everyone's like, no, we all noticed it. It's like, people understand now how it's so glaringly distracting when you do spot a mistake in something.
There are so many instances where you'll watch something and you're like, how did they not see? But you just get so in the zone. You're focusing on one thing, which is just the cutting.
The story.
Like, you're not seeing those things, which, in a case of, for something like post-production issue, is something you're going to look at after.
Yeah, and I will say, too, editors are typically working with the footage directly from set. So sometimes they'll see the temp VFX work cut in, but not usually. So they're trusting that the people they're passing off to afterwards, like down the line, the other aspects of post that come after the editing part, are going to fix it because they're cutting it with the knowledge of like, this is going to get removed later.
Yeah.
The last one I want to bring up for this episode is just a little example. Again, I haven't seen this movie. I doubt you've seen it. There is, and I guess, I don't know if this is considered a mistake, so that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up last. I think it's an oversight.
Is this one of the ones where we should debate?
It's the Disney original movie, the DCOM Prom Pact. We touched on it a little bit through this discussion already, but AI is becoming a lot more of a tool used in post-production to save budget, save time. A lot of instances now, the way it's being used, it's not super noticeable. It was the reason for a whole strike that just happened. And I will say, I do believe this movie came out and was made before the strike happened. But there is a scene in this movie where there is a painfully obvious use of AI-generated crowds in a pep rally scene.
I did watch the scene. When you added it to our doc, I was like, oh, what is that? And I checked it out, and it's something.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
I'm calling it a post mistake.
It is
that nobody pointed that out and was like, guys, we can't put this in.
It makes you wonder, like, was it a budget situation? Like,
I think it was budget. It must have been them saying, we'll just AI it. Let's try it. It's a new thing. And then they were like, yeah, that's good enough. I believe it's a quick enough shot, but people still noticed it. And actually, I have down in my notes, too, because as Janae mentioned, I listened to quite a few podcasts. So I will specifically mention that the Magical Rewind podcast also talked about this AI scene when they covered, they talk about Disney originals. That's the whole premise. Will Friedle and the one cheetah girl, I don't remember her name. I'll add it later.
Fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. They talk about old Disney decoms, and they pointed out about 23 minutes in, the scene was, they talked about it.
There's no way they would ever read as real people.
No, it's so glaringly bad. And we've seen, like, there are definitely cases where you can't always have hundreds of extras sitting around all day to fill rooms, especially on sets where you're doing multiple setups or you're filming across multiple days. It's hard to keep that many people consistently. So yeah, sometimes there's cheats in post where you might duplicate some people that are already there to fill the rest of a space or something like that. Again, body scanning was a whole other thing that was brought up and caused the strikes in Hollywood. But
like, crowd work is something that's done so much in VFX. Like, at my work, that is one of the biggest things is just filling that space. Make sure that it looks like a lot of individual people, because you don't want it to look like a literal, like,
empty room
and then just the same person over and over.
Exactly, because there are definitely older films where you can see that. But I mean, this is a newer movie within the last couple of years that's come out and using the latest and greatest tools, and it's like, could have tried a little bit harder. Someone could have taken an extra look at the scene and gone, maybe we cut a couple frames later so that we don't see more of this person's face because you can really tell they're AI or something. But
yeah, you could definitely make it work so that it's not you don't read it right away.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point. As you're watching, it's not supposed to take you. It's not supposed to make you go, oh God, what was that?
And probably some kid watching this decom isn't going to notice that a crowd is AI generated. Their parents might, but it's not for them. I'll give it a bit of a pass. It is egregiously bad. But
so you don't think it's a harder level? You think it's...
This is an ease into the official ranking system of the end of the episode. Because this is what I mean. We can cover the whole topic or we can go case by case. I think this one could be given a bit of a pass. I think it's a level 3 in terms of it's just bad. But the audience's 4 is probably not going to notice it.
Yeah.
So with that context,
it's
a conditional 3 for me.
I feel like AI is used so much now that perhaps people are starting to just become used to it. And it is possible that people could overlook that. It's not something I could do. But
no, not at this stage anyway.
But I do think it's passable. It can work. It's just, for how short it was, it's like I could probably give it. What did you say? You said level...
I said it's like a conditional 3, so maybe a 2.
I think I'm at a level 2.
Yeah.
They
should definitely take another look at it, but I guess they left it in there, so...
Yeah, I think it was probably a situation of they were like, okay, how much does this actually matter to us? Let's just... And they just chose that it didn't.
Somebody somewhere signed off on it, so it's a 2. It's got to be a 2.
It's a 2. I think it's a 2. Yeah, so Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think
that's a 3.
That's a big level.
And people noticed it. That's the thing, is it isn't us nitpicking this one. Everybody noticed it.
Yeah.
And so much that they went back and fixed it. That's a level 3 to me because they should have fixed it in the first place. It's a level 3 for sure.
I agree on that one for sure.
Do we agree on the dead pixel in Stranger Things?
I hate dead pixels. I hate them, but I understand that not everybody sees or notices a dead pixel. So if we were if we were doing our job like we used to do and we were watching through something, we would put it as a level 3.
It absolutely would have been a level 3, especially on nature shows because it's going to distract from the beautiful shots that people got when filming. If there's just this little, bright spot somewhere in the middle of this gorgeous landscape, it's going to distract because that's the whole point of it is look at these beautiful landscapes.
Geographic, photo-worthy cinematography.
Exactly, with dead pixel.
And the thing is, a dead pixel, it is easy to fix.
It's so easy.
It's easy to fix. So it's why not set it as a level 3 and get it fixed?
Internally, it should have definitely been a level 3 in terms of, especially up against the other examples we've talked about. I'm going to maybe give it a 2. I'm going to give it a bit more of a pass.
Yeah, I think it was in one scene.
On one half of coverage.
One half of the coverage. Yeah, exactly. So I think I would give it a 2.
If you're looking for it, you're going to notice it. But the general public, the general fan base of Stranger Things is not going to see it. Which brings us back to Wednesday and Justice League.
Yeah. So Justice League.
Yep.
That is one of those situations where it's hard to level. It's hard to pick a level.
Yeah.
Because it's something that was incredibly noticeable and everybody on the internet was talking about it. Enough that did it create good publicity for the movie?
It became a meme, which can be both, honestly. It's good and bad.
So it's they probably, they were fine with it. They let it go. I think it's really obvious, but I don't think it's enough to be we need to spend tons of money and fix this. I'm it is what it is.
Because that's what they said about his mustache. And look how that turned out.
I know. I would argue, I think it's a lower grade. Wow. I don't think it's as big as, but also maybe it's because I'm not very big into superhero movies.
There's a bit of exhaustion there, for sure.
I'm a little bit like, I've seen enough of them.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say it's a level 3.
You're a level okay, so I'm a 1 and you're a 3.
You're a 1.
I'm a 1.
I'm way on the other opposite spectrum.
It's bad, but I'm like
it's purely because it
like,
became a meme. That's why I'm giving it a 3, because people really noticed it and it did detract from the scenes that were shot.
True.
And because you're intercutting it with footage of the actor pre-reshoot, you get the direct comparison of when he actually didn't have his mustache. And so people are really going to notice, like, even if they don't know exactly that's why it looks weird, they're going to be like, something's off about it.
It's true.
And, comic book fans, superhero fans are like,
yeah,
they're going to notice.
Would be the ones to be really upset by it.
It's the wrong franchise to have that happen.
Yeah, that's true. I guess in my eyes, because I'm like not super into the superhero movies.
People wanted to hate watch Madam Web. They're going to want to hate watch his mustache removal.
Exactly.
We will be talking about Madam Web down the line, about a whole other slew of problems. Not mustache removal. To my knowledge, none of the main actresses had mustaches that anyone had to get rid of.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a point for me. It's like, well, maybe it helped the movie a little bit. I don't know. I give it a level 1.
Sure.
It's like
we can disagree.
And then
you can be wrong. I can be right.
Oh, okay. There it is. Of course. We had many back and forths on certain levels.
And then usually you would just say, I don't know, let the client decide.
Yeah. Then it was like, okay, well, at the end of the day, you can mark something higher and just see if they'll fix it.
Exactly. Because then it brings it to their attention and then they have the choice of saying, we're not fixing it, not a problem. And you're like, all right. Yeah. Sounds good to me.
And we saved our butts because it's like we flagged the thing.
Mm-hmm. We can say we pointed it out.
Yeah. So then we're in the clear. That's all we got to do.
Exactly.
But in this case, it's like content and, how we feel about the...
Exactly.
How we feel about it.
Yeah.
Not so much our job, but how we feel about it.
Yes. How does this make you feel? Very sad.
Wednesday made me text you and be like, that was bad.
If we have to text each other about it, it's not great.
So for me, that one is definitely a level 3. That glaringly, like,
it was
the bump with the, like, when it shifted from small, or it was a smaller,
it was a frame
bigger.
Bump. Yeah,
it was like
bigger.
It literally just popped up, and it that one for me was bad because I think that could have been A, fixed and B, seen.
And maybe it has been.
And it could be. I'd have to go back and check, but
we have to give credit where credit is due if they did in fact go back and fix it. But I don't know if it ever got back to them or if anyone noticed it other than us.
That is true. That's true.
The power windows and the smoothing of the freckles, however, is a whole other thing that was planned on the post-production side. It wasn't it was a post-production mistake, but it wasn't a post-production mistake.
It was a choice.
It was a choice. It was a choice for sure.
So in that case, like, do we think...
I don't know how many people, aside from us, who have the intuition to look for that stuff, would notice it or did notice it. Yeah. I think people would notice Jenna Ortega's face smoothing more than Catherine Zeta-Jones's occasional, like, chest smoothing.
Yeah.
I guess you would call it. I'm going to put it as a 3 for myself because I did think it was distracting. Mm-hmm. But I would say it's a conditional 3, and I'm making that a thing. We can call it conditional because I don't know how many other people would have noticed it, but for me and people in the industry, you're going to notice that when you're watching it, and it is going to be distracting. So it's a 2 conditional 3 for me.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same because I'm like, I can understand the creative choice because they were trying to give her that pale, like, we're trying to still go with that character, and it just wasn't exactly done well.
No, but maybe for the second season they can just cover it on set.
But yeah, makeup's great.
It's
you
great.
do so much with makeup
when it's done right, and when it's done wrong, we're going to talk about it.
Yes, we will.
If you enjoyed listening to us talk about post-production mistakes, then maybe you'll want to keep listening to us talk about other mistakes across film and TV. Next one we're planning on recording is production mistakes, which is not too dissimilar to what we've just talked about, but we will, of course, explain how it is different.
We touched on it a little bit when we were talking about things that we would notice when, we were doing our QCs. And sometimes you see issues like,
Coffee
things
cups.
that get left in frame, or some person standing there that is part of the crew and
didn't realize they weren't in the frame.
No, they were there. So yeah, it happens a lot actually, and it does not get noticed by a lot of people who are just watching the footage. So those are going to be things we'll talk about and cover, and there's lots of examples out there. So
there's probably several we've missed, along with post-production mistakes we've probably also missed. But, that's the beauty, is there's endless amounts of this stuff to talk about. There's always new content coming out on streaming services and cable, if people still watch cable, and in theaters. So, there's endless possibilities of topics to discuss. And if we've missed anything, we're happy to cover them at a later time as well. I'm sure there are big examples that we did not cover and are going to miss in our research. So
we love looking at all kinds of content and seeing those big issues, or even if they're small, we notice them. So we'll try our best to cover all of that. And a lot of hopefully kind of examples from the past and maybe some present ones, so we can cover full ground, but still happens. Even with all the technology we have today, still happens. So.
And as we discussed with AI, sometimes the technology itself makes it worse.
It can cause the issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep talking if
you'll keep listening, we'll keep talking.
But yeah, this is fun. I enjoyed talking with you, Lisa.
Me too. Let's do it again.
Yes. Until next time.
Signing off. I don't know. Quality Control Chicks podcast is produced and co-hosted by Lisa Cumming and Janae Perez. Audio record, mix, and master by Jack Rudy. For clips, updates, and more, you can follow our Instagram at Quality Control Chicks Pod. You can also find us on Spotify or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.